Hey everybody, what's up? It's Booksy. Today is Monday, January 29th. Going to be an update for AMC. So basically, last week we did an update that was live on Monday. It was about the first 15 minutes of that video, live video. And I talked about the need to jump over a few of these kind of more oppressive creeks that we have. And then once we get over those, we're probably going to be heading to the upside. I talked about the measurement for the S-curve. I think the measurement for the S-curve is done. There's no doubt in my mind that's it. But that doesn't mean you don't have more downside. An S-curve is just getting you to an area where you might build out a range. You certainly could see this come down quite a bit further. I could see it pretty easily coming down to like the 350 range if it drops again. And we did have a distributive top last week, so we didn't end up breaking out, and we came all the way back down to what would be the current floor around $4. This is the Citigroup target that they had. They adjusted their target to like 410. So to me, this is probably like a decent bottom target right now. But again, doesn't mean it can't go lower first before something else happens. I did think that last week we'd probably see this kind of reaction. I left this on the chart and it's followed pretty closely. Unfortunately, what didn't happen is we didn't jump the creek. And you can see here that I had this line drawn and I anticipated we might get over this first guy, which is this red line right here, which comes from all the way back up at the drop-off point on August 14th of last year, going through the outermost point that we have currently, which is right around January 1st. And you can see that it rejected fairly succinctly, like right off of it. So it was a very, very clean double top rejection here. And there was just no buy-in. Volume was super weak on this push-up. I said it during the day that day. I talked about the buy-in being really weak. Then I also drew this guy. This is not something that I've adjusted either. And this was just looking at, a possible secondary floor if we were to come back down, and we went right beneath it. And again, double rejection. To me, it looks like it is set up for further distribution, unfortunately. But all of that being said, a lot of times with the bottoms that we do form on AMC, you might get like an early reaction that looks like the auto reaction and then still have like a selling climax. I don't think this is a very strong reaction volume-wise. Doesn't really look like much of an auto reaction if it is one. It could be that this is a very large auto reaction. We're going to have a phase B bottom, and then we're going to push back up. Could be a double bottom, but again, not super optimistic about that. Market just opened up, so you want to see the movement on the chart. Mainly because I think that we've rejected here, and we really haven't jumped any of the creeks that we need to jump. So until that happens, we're just kind of stuck. And a lot of people will ask, like, well, what's the target? Like, what's the price? Give me a number. Well, we needed to get over 5. I mean, that seemed pretty obvious to me right here. We have a bottom at 474, another one right around at 5. And to me, like, a reversal here was a pretty succinct, like, jump and then working your way back up over 5. That didn't happen. So at this point, continuation seems most likely. Yes, RSI is still pretty wildly oversold. I believe on the 4-hour and even up to like daily. Yeah, we're still really oversold on the daily. I mean, this is historic lows. I mean, we've been this low before in January of 2022. You can go back and kind of like look at the chart and see where that was. That was basically sort of the same area that we were kind of suspecting that we might be in right now, something similar. And you can see what happened in this range is that we did have a bounce and then he dropped to new lows again. A lot of the consideration I've had was assuming that we already did this bottom, right? That was this. You can see the structures are very similar. They're really similar. The difference being, of course, this one distributes and this one holds. So it may be that we're in something, again, akin to this, where you have like an early auto reaction that failed, and then it drops back low, and then you're going to get a stronger one and build out a much larger range. definitely think it's a possibility going forward that we see some longer term movement, perhaps over at least a month or so, going into maybe the next earnings report. This was very similar when it moved it into earnings. So this was a March earnings. So it's a similar time period, similar possible setup. I wouldn't hold my breath too much about it, being exactly the same. Prior to that, we haven't been this oversold on the daily. I mean, unless you look back at October 2020. And I don't think most people that are tracking any kind of fractal movement here are looking much at RSI. But if you are tracking any fractal movement and you think it's going to be like this, just remember this has a really long divergence, and it's a several month divergence here. And then on other time frames, there's like 10 months of RSI divergence on like 4 hour, I believe. It's like all rising. And this price, especially right here, you can see there's a double bottom, and the RSI is clearly divergent, and it looks very, very bullish. We don't really have that right now. So there's a lower low in price and a lower low in RSI, at least on the daily. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my mouse here. And you can see that the same thing applies to the 4 hour. Okay, in the 4 hour, we're already down like 1%. The 4 hour is oversold, pretty strongly oversold. But there's been periods where we've been oversold for quite a long time in the 4 hour mark. So before moving back up. So again, not worth kind of stressing about. But I think that, again, looking back, you've got a couple different pockets. May 2022. Oddly, this is like right before the bigger drops that we had. This is going into December, and this is where you had that bigger move up. It's like 30%, and then it dropped really far after that and started that downtrend. And then it go again back in 2020. So we're not really looking at something that we've experienced anytime recently. I mean, it's been a while since we've been this oversold. And I definitely think we're due for some kind of a reaction to the upside. But it's very possible that this reaction is much more slow, and that we end up with this kind of like a bouncing bottom before it's all said and done. So if you're wondering about like price targets, what do we need to get over, yada, 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 I can't really tell you exactly the number, but I will say this, like right now, as the crow flies, if we were to kind of head straight up, 420 is basically that first area that we would need to break. If we start ranging out between $4 and $4.79, we're definitely going to be ranging across these creeks. Okay, so to me, it's really important that you just kind of like pay attention if it starts going sideways, because that's a good sign in a lot of ways. It means that we could have potential support where we've not yet had any support. You can see that there's been consistent rejection along these creeks. And so for us to jump over them and start moving across would be really powerful. And if we don't do that, then it's just downside. It's pretty straightforward. So all that being said, I hope you guys have a great week. Best of luck in the markets. I'm not going to go over other tickers today, but I will be doing that in the Discord group early today. So anyways, hope you all have a good one. We'll talk to you later.